Welcome, everybody, to the first ever Salty Nerd Podcast Late Night Edition. I am your host, Alex the Salty Nerd. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Netflix's new show, Arcane League of Legends. And just before we get started, I want to let you guys know if you want to support the podcast, if you like what we do here, go to saltynerdclub.com and join our Patreon. You're going to get 4 exclusive podcasts every single month, only for patrons, made for them specifically. This month of January, we're doing Doctor Who, and we're also having special guest David Hewlett hop in with that as well. So if you're a fan of Stargate Atlantis, you can hop in for $5. You can join the Patreon club and get exclusive access to our Doctor Who discussions every single week this month. All right, guys, enough out of that. I am joined by a huge panel of nerds this week. Thank you guys so much for joining us. First on the list is the last Bravo. Joe, welcome to the show. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Excellent. And the producer, Matthew Kadish himself. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Can't wait to talk about this with all you Philistines.
And League of Legends expert himself, Judd or Jared. Welcome, sir. How are you doing, bud?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Love League of Legends. I love philosophy behind literature and movies and TV shows. So I'm very excited to hear about what you guys say about it.
Excellent. And last but not least, Conspiracy Tom. Welcome, sir.
Hey, man, parts unknown. Welcome myself to the party. Let's do this thing.
He's out in the middle of freaking Utah somewhere in a cabin. He's like, I gotta talk about League of Legends. That's amazing.
I was like scarfing down dinner, like chugging a beer. I'm like, we're gonna do this.
All right, let's get right into it, guys. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much. Joker Voice, Zach, you guys are amazing. Andre, thank you guys so much for being here. Real quick, I'm just going to read the synopsis for the show itself, and then we'll get into what we liked and what we didn't like. The premise of this show: amidst the escalating unrest between the advanced utopian city of Piltover and the squalid, repressed undercity of Zaun, sisters Vi and Jinx, or Powder, find themselves on opposite sides of a war over twisted ideologies and arcane technology. So right off the bat, I'm going to let everybody know I have no idea about League of Legends. I do not ever play the games. I've never heard of the show until it was on Netflix and it looked cool, so I checked it out. With absolutely zero knowledge going in, I was blown away at how much I loved the story. I love the steampunk vibe. The animation was incredible, and the best part for me is that, like, sister on sister fighting. It kind of felt like a Obi-Wan and Anakin type situation where one was falling to the dark side and the other one was trying to save her but couldn't. It was just a really incredible, fun story, and there was enough of a political chess piece going on as a backdrop to the family dynamic that was happening in front of you that it really hooked me, and I had a ton of fun, and I want to learn more about this world, League of Legends. Joe, how about you, bud? What was your first general thoughts on this show as a big fan of League of Legends yourself?
I was extremely disappointed that it was only 9 episodes and that we had to wait every week for 3 episodes to come out. I was telling Jared after every single 12:01, I was like, oh my god, it's time, let's go. After the end of those 3 episodes, I was like, I need more. I want more. I loved everything about it. It led up to some awesome fight scenes and the way they played with the colors and everything like that. They had slow-mo moments at awesome times. They didn't overplay it. It was just thumbs up. Loved it.
Nice. Right on. Matthew Kadish, how about you, bud? What's your general thoughts on this show?
I like this show. I thought animation-wise, it was up there with some of the best, animation houses out there. But I do think the show's getting slightly more praise than it deserves. It's a little bit overrated, but it's not a bad show by any means. So that's
right
my take on it.
I know that. I know he was like, "Hey guys, can I jump in on the stream because I want to destroy you all?"
No, I'm so excited to hear that because I don't like to hear about hey, we all loved it. We're on agreement. High fives, everybody. Woo! I have to have talk about it a little bit.
So, Jared, how about you, bud? As a League of Legends fan, how did you feel the show did?
I mean, I've been a League of Legends fan for 10 years. I am a diehard fan. I've been to a lot of different events for them. I was really hopeful for the show, so I was really happy that they executed it and they landed Like they landed it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Very happy about that. And they just, it's not about just, it's the best video game adaptation that I have ever seen. And
Wow.
probably we will ever see, honestly, in my opinion.
That's great to hear. Excellent. All right, Tom, you're next, bud. What's your general thoughts on the show?
Oh man, you know that I am freaking out about this show since it came out.
Yeah.
I've loved every second of it. I was talking with Matt about this the other day, and Matt's salty as hell. So I'm glad you're here, Matt, because I think the rest of us love it way too much to not have somebody here that's not going to crap on it. Because honestly, character development, story arc, characters, animation, action, adventure, you name it, this show nailed it. One of the best things I've ever seen on Netflix. It is a very good show.
Wow.
The only drawback is that it's animated, and that's going to keep some people from watching it. But honestly, it's fantastic. Final Fantasy vibes all the way through. Ancient technologies come to life. Excellent action, excellent adventure. One of the best villains I've ever seen. Fun show, man. Fun show.
I was thinking, I do have drawbacks too on the show, which I would love to share with you later.
No, share it right now. That's what this is all about. Look at the Salty Texas here dropping $2 super chat. Thank you, sir. Take my money, but show me more skin. Cheers and hail. Thank you, sir, so much. Oh, look at those guns. Look at those guns on Tom. All right, very good. So let's first off, I want to talk about Piltover because there's a ton of information just in this city alone with the council members and the politicking that happens during the entire show that I would like to know if that's straight from the games. Is that something that's part of the lore already, or is this something that they created for the show? Because I really enjoyed all that stuff. I got if George Lucas had done it better in the prequels, I think that probably would have been like something like this, where you felt the politics and how it put pressure on the characters that we're living with day to day in the show. So I really enjoyed that part. But I was curious, Jared or Joe, do you guys know if this the backstory with how the Hextech came about, what there was used for with Piltover, and the Piltover versus the City Zon, is that all from the games originally? Is that part of the lore?
Yes, and no. So It's great with the League of Legends because it's been around for 10 years. And if anyone's ever played like a fighting game, like you have a new character who comes in and they have like a 3-paragraph biograph. Like, this guy loves guns and he likes to shoot things. And then that's it. And he's from this city. And then that's kind of the information you get from him. And then 10 years later down the road, you get more introduced to more characters in different cities. But the show took the information that it had, like in the background of the video game, and the video game has like books, it has comic books, it has stories, it has music videos. It's a whole encyclopedia of things that you can watch and listen. And it's very fluid. So you can kind of make the story what you want it to be. But the true values of the story of Arcane, of Piltover and Zon, or Zane, is very true. Like it's the same city. It's tier 2 cities, above ground, underground, under city, above city, technology advanced, criminal underground. That's very true of the story, and they kept it very, very similar.
Nice. And this character that we deal with in Piltover, who's kind of the one who's creating the Hextech, Jace Tales, is that a character from the games as well?
It is.
Okay, cool. How do you, Joe? How did you feel about the Piltover backstory and the Hextech and all that stuff?
I thought it was really good. So, like Jared said, with the history and the lore that we got, it's not like all these other book adaptations like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, where like you have a book and like that's what's in the book, and they make a movie of what's in the book. So you have like there's 150 plus characters in this game. You have like small little bios that are like 3 or 4 paragraphs long, and then like the rest of it you're just like playing a fighting game. But they did really good of like keeping true to what the little glimpse that the bio gave us. I was actually rereading the bios earlier today to kind of like brush up to see how true it was to what the bio said versus what the show gave us, and for the most part it was like spot on. the bios were a little ambiguous, so there was a lot of room for the TV shows to play with.
Little
So,
artistic
Exactly. Like,
licensing.
you don't have to go into Star Wars Episode 1
Yeah.
not knowing who Darth Vader is. Like, you can watch the show from the beginning and be like, okay, I get it. This guy's
Yeah.
smart. Or, hey, that guy, he's a villain. But
Right on.
then they really go deep into character-wise. So it's
Right on. Kadish, you said that you felt like some of it was a little slow. Is this the politics? Was that the part that you felt like kind of dragged the show down, or how did you feel about how they handled that?
I definitely felt like the show had pacing issues. There was a lot of stuff that I felt slowed down the narrative and wasn't explained correctly. Like you talked about Piltover and was it Zon, the Undercity? And, one of the things that as a writer is really important to me is that if you're introducing a fantasy land, that you kind of give the lay of the land to the audience so everyone kind of knows the geography and like what's where and who's what, and just give a sense of like the history of the world before you jump right into the story. And we never got that with this. Like, I'm not a big League of Legends, like I know of League of Legends, but like I never really played it. And I didn't really dive into the backstory until after I watched the show. And to me, like, I never felt like Piltover and Zon were fully fleshed out. But more than that, none of the world outside of that city was fleshed out. Like, I didn't know anything about any of the other territories. I didn't know anything about any of the history of the world. They talk about magic, but it's like, where'd they get these magic crystals from? Like, I don't know where they're getting like any of this stuff from. And so like, I felt like a lot of stuff was glossed over that should have been in the story. And a lot of the stuff that was in the story didn't need to be there. It could have easily been cut out to make the story flow a lot quicker. The first like 2 episodes, I think, were very slow. Like a lot of action in it, don't get me wrong, but it didn't feel like the narrative was going as quickly as it should have, to me at least. So like, I was just really bored throughout most of the show, even though it was beautiful and I was enjoying the story and I liked the political aspect of it. The thing that I really liked though was the mystery aspect. When Vi and Caitlin got together and were kind of doing their investigation thing, I was like, okay, I'm digging this. This is cool. But the frustrating thing about their investigation was like they never really came upon any answers. It was just kind of like they went from one set piece to the next, and they're like, oh, we're running from these guys and we're wounded now. And we got to fight these guys, and it's just kind of like, oh well, they never really achieved what they set out to achieve. And that was kind of like my frustration with the whole show. Is like they set up these great story arcs, and then they never really went anywhere with them. And so like I was just kind of like frustrated throughout most of the show.
Okay. Tom, we'll get to you. How did you feel about Piltover and the politics that happened there? I know there was what's the little fuzzy dude's character's name?
Heimerdinger.
Heimerdinger? Yeah, Heimerdinger.
He threw me off. He threw me off. I'm not gonna lie. He threw me off because I was watching this and I was like,
I love Heimerdinger.
I'm like, why is there a ferret running around talking to people? Like,
No, it's like a Gwildor type character. Remember Gwildor?
Yeah. I mean, they put a lot of those characters in. Like, you have
Terrible
some random bat dudes, you have some cat guys, you have some.
Yeah, I was expecting more. Like, what? Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to go off of what Matt was talking about, and like I'm like super fanning over the show right now. But what Matt's saying, I'm totally with you. Yeah, they do not flush out a lot of the like. It doesn't make any sense. Like the one councilwoman's mother is from someplace else. They're sending ships around the world, but we don't know anything. But I'm going to take it a step back and say I like that perspective because the show starts so humbly. It's just a couple of kids pulling a B&E, and they don't know what they're doing. So from like the storyteller, like the hero of 1,000 faces story arc, it does make a lot of sense to start so humbly where you don't understand anything, and then by the end of it, it just keeps exponentially growing. So by season 2, we're going to introductions to a lot more stuff. I think it's really going to weed itself out, and I appreciate that they didn't give us way too much up front because I like the mystery coming in for the second season. That's where I sit with the show.
Can I say one thing? They kind of did John Wick, where it's like, hey, here's the whole environment that we're not going to tell you everything about, but kind of get your impressions about what's happening. Like you have
like the Continental. Like he goes to the hotel, like they introduce this Hextech and the Hex Gate, but they're like, we're not going to tell you about it, but it's there. and it's a big deal. So I got you right
Give
on.
it
I
time.
like that.
It's definitely coming.
There's a difference there though with John Wick. With John Wick in a contemporary kind of like setting, you can do that slow rollout of like the greater assassin universe. With a fantasy realm, especially to people who aren't familiar with the game, because I feel like people who were familiar with the game came into this show and were able to fill in a lot of the gaps that those of us who aren't familiar with the game just couldn't. With any fantasy or science fiction setting, you really need to do your world building establishment early on so that later on down the line, you don't have to worry about it. And I constantly felt like there were huge gaps in just the story logic, because I didn't know anything about this world. We get a lot about Piltover, we get a lot about the Undercity, but we don't get anything about anything else. And they keep referring to it like we should know what they're talking about. And so like I didn't, and that just made it frustrating for me to watch.
Okay.
Understandable.
Let's segue real quick to the creation of the Hextech, because I think that's one of the more interesting elements of the show for me. We get that backstory with Jace where he's in a snowy, arid area for whatever reason. We don't know. His mom is dying of exposure, I'm guessing. And a wizard shows up and saves their life. And that kind of sets him on a track of like, I need to learn how to use magic. And Humdinger, whatever the heck his name is, mentioned that like magic was a big deal hundreds of years ago, but it went real bad real fast. And we like basically exiled all the magic users. So there was a lot of backstory, a lot of meat there that I think Kadish might have a point there where we're like, I don't know anything about these wizards. Where'd they come from? What'd they do? But the way he used this Hextech, once he brought it and he kind of like merged science with this magical element, I was fascinated by it. I love the steampunk vibe that had and what they were trying to use it for. So I had a lot of fun with that. What did you guys think about his backstory and him creating this Hextech stuff? Jared, we'll start with you, bud.
You actually kind of nailed it. Like again, the backstory. Like, yeah, there was a world of magic before him, and then it went bad. Like things went wrong, and that's why you kind of see the guy at Heimerdinger, the little ferret dude. He's like, hey, I don't want to introduce magic. Like, this is not okay, Jace. Don't get into it. Some things are too dangerous. I am 300 years old. I've seen what happens. Don't get into it. And that really kind of dwells into the duality of the show. Like in every episode, or almost every character, you kind of see like a duality. Like, hey, Jace and Heimerdinger want to make the world a better place. Heimerdinger wants to play it safe, and Jace wants to play it fast and hard. And you can see how they both combat back and forth. And then that's kind of how it's setting up with the background of the video game and the history.
That's all accurate from the game history and stuff like that too. Lore.
It is, yeah.
Okay, cool. What did you think about his? I guess you kind of already mentioned it, but his mentality going into it, where he had his friend who was doing it to help people, and he kind of let it get the best of him a little bit, where he was kind of going after like fame and fortune there for a little while. He became a council member. What did you think about that story?
Same thing. Like, it's the duality, you know, he's doing his best. He's trying to do what's best for the city or what he thinks is right. And he's kind of combating with somebody who's old and wise, and he doesn't want things to change, and he wants things to change, and going back and forth between the politics. It was just a really good vibe, and finding out that conspiracies and those kind of things in between was a lot of fun to watch.
Okay.
And that's accurate to the game as well.
Nice. Joe, what'd you think about the Hextech and creation of all that science and magic mixed?
I thought it was good. I thought it was a little slow because I went into it like total fanboying, like the knowing what these characters use and stuff like that. And it took in the games, Jace uses the hammer that you see, I think, in like episode 7 or 8. And Vi is using those gauntlets towards the end when you see that fight. So I was kind of just like, oh man, like they're actually giving us like backstory to like how these were created and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed it. I didn't like in the bio or anything like that. It doesn't really go over like the creation of Hextech or anything like that. So it's really cool to see like how that world came to be and how Hextech started to evolve and stuff. So I just fanboy. I got nothing bad to say about the show.
Is Hextech like when is that what you guys use in the game? Like your characters level up Hextech? Is that how it works?
You can buy
No.
items. Like
You
they
can
have
buy
like,
items?
oh, this Hextech item makes me do more damage, or
Okay.
whatever it is, or it makes me teleport from here to here.
Okay. So it is an element in the game that you can use. So there, okay, gotcha. Right on. Kadish, how about you, bud? What did you think about the creation of the Hextech? Did you find it confusing or did you enjoy it?
Well, I mean, I liked the introduction of the magic system because any good fantasy kind of or science fiction realm like spends time setting up their magic system, right? But I had so many questions. I was like, well, where are these magic crystals coming from? How are they getting them? Why isn't there more focus on battles over mining these things? And I wanted to know what like their origins were and how they did what they did, and how it related to the weird purple elixir drug that was going around Zon.
Oh, we're gonna get to that. Yeah.
I understand that the weird crazy doctor was like pulling mutagen out of this dying creature to make this stuff, but like I never really understood like how it like was it a drug, was it like a performance enhancer, like, and how did it relate to the Hextech stuff? It was like the Zon version of Hextech, but it just turned people into like super strength monsters for like a little while, and then like they all got deformed and weird. Like I wanted a clear explanation as to both how Hextech worked and how the purple goo worked, because I feel like they expected you to like just kind of draw your own conclusions for most of it, or if you're familiar with the games, just kind of know, hey, this is how this works. But I feel like as a fantasy, as an introduction to a fantasy world, there were so many unanswered questions about the magic system that it just felt like there were times where I was like, well, why can't they do this with Hextech? But then it's like, well, they either just ignored the potential for it, or there are rules that they're following that I'm not privy to. So I just wanted a very clear explanation, like just a couple minutes of like Jace or the crazy doctor guy just giving us like a little bit of an explanation as to how these two different things worked.
Okay. I want to ask the guys about the purple goo in a minute. But Tom, real quick, what did you think about the creation of the Hextech and the magical technology that was going on? Did you find that interesting? Did you find it as confusing as Kadish, or what were your thoughts on that?
Like I said earlier, I really see this show, this season, as an origin story for our hero and our villain. Is there a lot of holes in a lot of things? Like Matt brought up, like, where do they get these crystals? Why aren't they fighting over these crystals? Do they come out of the ground? Do we create them? Okay, you're bringing up a lot of stuff, Matt, that I have literally not even thought about until right now. So thank you for being here, because I mean I was just very much focused on the protagonist antagonist development throughout the show. Visually, though, when they create the Hextech, it's an awesome scene. No one understands what's happening because no one's lived long enough to see arcane abilities before. Heimerdinger, and he gets it right away, and he's like, "Oh boy, okay." But visually, like, the animation on the show is half the reason to watch it. I've watched a lot of anime, and I've watched a lot of Disney, Pixar, you name it. This is some of the best I've ever seen. So just when they create the Hextech alone, just the scene is gorgeous enough just to watch a clip, just to say, oh my God, look at what technology is bringing us right now in our own world, not just to mention what they're bringing us on the show. So I like that it's such a beautiful creation, and at the same time, very fascinating, very fun show. Matt's bringing up a lot of things that make a lot of sense, and I'm just gonna mute him.
No, I have a great answer to his questions.
Go ahead, man. Yeah, take it away.
Real quick, I just want to point out that it's a French company called Fortiche.
Yes, they did such a good job.
The animation, and they actually started working with Riot Games around the time the character of Jinx came out. They made a music video introducing her character.
You are your best friend, man.
And throughout the years, Riot has had like this relationship with Fortiche where they would make like cinematics and promotional stuff. And eventually they got, when they got this Netflix deal, they were like, hey guys, can you make an animation, like an animated TV show? And Fortiche was like, can we? Wow, yes. So,
nice.
Yeah. The animation is second to, it's amazing. It's a beautiful show.
Jared, you said you had an answer to some of Kadish's questions. Take it away, man. That's why you're here tonight.
Oh, for example, like lore wise, like Shimmer, that purple goo that makes people like buffed up and whatever. That's not in League of Legends at all. Like,
okay.
That is completely just a new thing. That is just it's just a
But
good story element.
The character that makes it Singed, like you know that he's like a mad scientist. That like his whole thing is like chemicals and like using those to enhance his power and stuff like that.
Well,
Okay.
Silco wasn't in the game at all, right? That was someone just created for the show.
Yeah.
Neither was Vander.
What I was gonna say is like the show Arcane is character driven and not fantasy driven, and that's what they were going for. And I think it's just because it's to attract a larger audience.
Yeah, but you know, one of the biggest excuses for bad writing is that it's all about the characters. Because in order to tell a good story, you have to have a good balance of character development and plot. And I agree with you. This show is very big on the character development stuff, the character stories. The central thing with Jinx and Vi was fantastic. But the problem is that when you focus too much on character, you tend to ignore plot, and you need a good plot in order to drive a story forward. And so I feel like this show was kind of unfocused. Like it jumped around to a lot of different subplots. Eventually they kind of all intersected, but I feel like if the show had just been planned out a little better, a lot of those converging of plot lines could have been a lot more powerful than they were. At its core, you have the Vi Jinx kind of thing. But to me, that relationship was not enough to carry an entire series. Maybe a couple episodes, but I didn't find Vi a very intriguing character. I didn't really like her all that much.
Honestly, neither did I.
Yeah, and Jinx was basically just Harley Quinn, you know. So like it's just like
Harley Quinn mixed with Two-Face.
She was Harley Quinn before Harley Quinn became super
You
popular.
got it, man. Jinx is fun, man. Jinx is fun.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into it then. That's going to be the meat of the conversation tonight. Is the dynamic between Vi and Jinx, or Powder, when she was young. The opening episode, where they're together and Jinx is just singing that little lullaby song amidst the freaking just flames and fire. That was so powerful. And then later on, I think me and Tom kind of geeked out about this, but that villain origin scene where she's, you know, Vi gets mad at her because she just accidentally murdered her entire family. And you see the change in her face, and she looks up and she's like, my sister's dead, or whatever she says. It was so freaking powerful. So when Kadish says that he thinks the first 3 episodes were slow, I was like, no way, dude. That was the best freaking part of that show. That's what got me hooked, was that relationship between Vi and Jinx, and how she turned so dark so quickly, and Silco came in there. So I have to argue with that, man. I really enjoyed the first couple episodes. That's what really, really got me sunk into the show and had me like, that got me hooked, and that got me through the slower episodes where we're like doing politics and magic and stuff like that.
Yeah, like 4, 5,
and then, until we get to the ending where we're back to Vi and Jinx again. So Joe, what did you think about the character development and the sister on sister action there? That sounded.
I thought
weird.
it was awesome. I thought it was awesome. Even like in the end when they're sitting around the table and me and Jared playing the game. No, she's bat crap crazy. But she's sitting there and deciding like who she's gonna shoot, you know, and like the way they did it, like even though knowing I'm like, oh, she's gonna go crazy, like I was still hoping against hope. I was like, oh man, maybe she's gonna, you know, pick Vi and, you know, be good. Like they just did it so well, even though I knew the result and the outcome of it. Like I was still like, the way they did it, it just led up to like, nothing bad to say. Like I loved it. Yeah, I was geeking out so hard. Powder was adorable. Like she turned into Jinx and she was like psycho. They did a really good job. I like Vi. I felt like they could have, you know, made her character a little bit more interesting too. But yeah,
she was pretty one note, but she was. I think she was the balance that the character of Jinx needed to counter it. Like Vi is very flatline. She only has one mission on her mind. She's very flat. She's a very predictable character. Jinx is the crazy one. So you have those two different characters fighting each other. I don't know. It didn't bother me at all that she was kind of a plain Jane. But Jared, what did you think about the two sisters and that whole storyline, the meat of this show?
It was just so good because like you have these two sisters, right? And again, they come from wartime. They're raised by their adopted father, Vander. He gets killed. They get separated, and then Jinx gets adopted by Silco. And the whole time, the whole show, we're thinking like, oh, Silco, he's an a-hole, he's a jerk, he's manipulative. But like throughout the show, we're like, he really cares about her. Like that's his daughter to him, and Jinx feels that the same way. So when it comes to the character development of Jinx, you have her being constantly confused. Do I love Vi? Do I love Silco? Do I love my friends who I let die? What do I need to do to be a good person? Should I be a good person? What's in it for me? What's in it for them? And like she's constantly trying to wrap her head around it, and you can see how she struggles with it.
I will say, you said how she let die, and she legit killed him.
No, yeah,
so like her brain kind of just went bonkers. Like she like legit like her brain just snapped. And I think they did a really good job like showing that. Even when she was by herself, she had the dummies of her friends just sitting there, and she was talking to them back and forth. Like,
that was. We're gonna get to let Tom talk for Tom and Kadish go, and then we'll get into the details and stuff. But Tom, what'd you think about the Vi versus Jinx storyline in this show?
I think Vi is an excellent protagonist. Your protagonist is like your alpha character. It's all brawn, not a lot of intelligence, just that go for it, do the right thing kind of a thing, right? Like Superman's not a smart guy. He's I'm going to go do the right thing guy. And in episode 3, when Vi puts the gauntlets on, and that big goon's coming up with the tattoos all over his face, and he's like, well, I'm just going to stab this little girl. And she blocks it and breaks that dude's face. And it's one of the coolest scenes in the whole show, and it's what hooked me. Up until that point, I was like casually watching and playing on my phone at the same time. When that scene happens, I'm dead locked in. And then Jinx comes in and tries to save the day and kills everyone and still believes she saves the day because she's just broken. I love it. I thought, honestly, the character development for me, fantastic. I'm really hoping season 2 keeps it going. But they're yes, they love each other. They both still want to be with each other, but only one of them really knows how broken the other one is. Jinx is the only one that really realizes I'm effed. I'm basically unsavable, and by the end of it, she's proving I am unsavable.
Oh God, that ending, man!
She proves it. She's proven it to herself, to her surrogate father, to her sister, to everyone she can. I mean, we all thought there was a head under that chafing dish, right?
Right? Yeah.
We all thought there was a head under that. Jinx's development throughout the show. I mean, yeah, she is basically just Harley Quinn with a little Two-Face put in her. But it's good, man. She's scary as hell. And Vi is like honestly the epitome of the good guy. Like she's the good guy. She's tough, no nonsense. She's gonna get in there. She's gonna scrap. She's gonna get beat up. She's gonna do the right thing, even if it means getting killed in the process. And I really like it. It's awesome for me.
All right, Kadish, science fiction novelist himself. What did you think about the character development between Vi and Jinx?
Well, I mean, it was the core of the show, right? It was a story about these two sisters who are at odds with one another, and one of them is trying to save the other. I feel like this show. So let's be honest here for a minute. Let's be real. This is a Netflix show, so there's a lot of forced representation.
Oh yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Thing. And a lot of strong female characters, which is cool. But one of the things that got me was kind of like how Vi and Caitlyn are now lesbians, and they form a very subtle relationship in the show that Jinx becomes jealous of, which is part of the reason why she has Caitlyn there in the final scene, because she's jealous of Vi's affection for her. So like, I felt like they kind of Legend of Korra'd it a little bit at the end there. But overall, like, I can't fault the show for its character relationships, because all the character relationships, Victor and Jace, Silco and Jinx, I forget the surrogate father's name, but his
Vander.
relationship, Vander and Vi, even what was the black guy's name?
Echo.
Yeah, Echo's relationship with the characters, like all the character relationships worked in this show. Like it was very well written in terms of like interpersonal dynamics, all that stuff. My biggest problem is that I didn't really care for a lot of it. Like obviously the Vi and Jinx relationship I was invested in, and I kind of came to care about Jace and Victor, but a lot of the relationships I just didn't give a crap about. Like what's her name and her mother? I didn't care about that.
Caitlyn.
Yeah, well, no, not Caitlyn. Black girl.
The councilwoman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
but that's set up for season 2, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like even her relationship with Jace, where she was just manipulating him, and then like she became conflicted because she started to care for him. I didn't care for a lot of these things. I think that's one of the reasons why I found there were pacing issues, is because there were so many character relationships that I just didn't care about that they spent a lot of time on, and I was just like, get to the good stuff, you know. So, but overall, I felt like that was the show's strongest point, was the interpersonal relationships between the characters, and Vi and Jinx's relationship specifically. Like we forget that Jinx dies at a certain point in the show, and she's like brought back to life by the purple goo, and that pushes her so far away from anything resembling powder that Vi just doesn't understand how to reach her anymore. And so like, yes, there was a lot of setup for season 2, but I kind of feel like I wish that there had been a more complete arc in season 1 before they set up the next season, because it just felt like it almost felt like half a season to me. It felt like half a story almost. So that was my thing.
So one of my favorite elements to this was actually, like I said in the beginning, the first 3 episodes was some of my favorite stuff, is with Vander and Vi. The conversation that he has with her about leading this group of kids that look up to her. I love that conversation. As a father myself, I feel like I should probably have that conversation with my kid at some point. Like it was such a good. By the way. Yeah, I got 3 now, buddy.
Oh, I got 3 now.
Just keep popping them out. But no, I love that conversation that they had about what it is to be a leader and to care. And Vi, she's that young kid who just wants to fight. And he says, he even says that he's like, I've heard all of this before from myself. Like I've been in your shoes before, but I've went down that path and it doesn't lead anywhere good. And, I love that conversation that he had. It was a lot of fun. And Vander just like that early politics that we got in those first couple episodes where Vander was playing with the Piltover police woman. Really cool stuff there. It was cool to see how like some of the kids felt like that Vander had betrayed them by making this deal with the enforcers and stuff like that. There was a lot of fun to have there. And then there was something I was going to mention something else, but Jared, what else is there anything else that you want to talk about with Jinx and Vi, or the dynamics with the family or the kids? Go for it, buddy. What else did you like about the show?
Honestly, I'll say real fast, like the character development. Like, so every character in the show has impact. And like, for example, you have the female Silco's bodyguard with like the metal arm, like I didn't think she was like, I thought she was a throwaway character, like, hey, she's a bodyguard, don't worry about her, she's not important. But then like at the end of the story, like she comes back in, she's important. Like she's the end scene, she's smoking a cigarette or a cigar, she's like, hey, this crap's crazy. And then same thing with like Mel and her mom. And like every character has like an impact. And so everyone's choices, be it whether they think it's good or bad, affects everybody. And you see that throughout the entire show. And I think that they executed that really, really well.
I will say I did the dynamic with Silco and his goons, and that betrayal that they had about halfway through the season where they were trying to take over, and he was just like 3 steps ahead of him. Silco is a really, really cool bad guy. I really enjoyed him.
Yeah.
Tom, you look like you have something to say, buddy. Go ahead. What else did you like about the show? What other characters stood out to you?
Silco is probably my favorite character.
I know, right?
I love him. And Silco's father relationship with Jinx, and then his brother relationship with Vander and Vander's father relationship with both the girls. I love the dynamic. Vander is one of the coolest characters in the show. He's like the ultimate like father figure. He is strong. He's charismatic. He's not abusing his power because obviously he's one of the most powerful people that there is. But he's not abusing it, and he's trying to teach these street kids how to live a better life. And then you find out he almost he tries to kill his brother, who's not his brother, but his brother through blood, if you will. Tries to murder him in the process, and then there's so much literal backstabbing between those two characters. Honestly, Silco makes it for me because he's such a smart, driven. He's one of those villains that believes he's right. And those are the ones that you can gravitate towards, right? Like Thanos was good because he believed he was right? Silco is good because he really believes his shit. He believes his message. He is on a mission to make the world better for people, any way possible. But he's on a mission, right? Those that dynamic on the other side of it, love it. It's a fun show.
You're rooting for Silco, like his father relationship with this Jinx. Like you kind of rooted for him at the end.
Yes, you do.
The best scene with Silco was when he meets with Jace, and they make a deal for the Undercity's independence. And Silco's like, "Aren't you going to put me in jail?" And Jace is like, "You can't make a deal with a snake whose head you've just cut off." He's like, "We need you there in order to make sure that our terms are met by everyone else in the Undercity." And that to me was like one of the smartest pieces of writing in the show, because it really showed like, okay, this is the gray area in which these characters are operating politically. And it was very interesting. But yeah, one of the crimes about this though is that Silco is a character that's not from the games. He was made solely for the show. And so like I would have liked to have kind of explored that character a little bit more than what we got. Like, what was the deal with injecting that stuff into his eye? Like, what did that do? Like, I don't know.
It had something to do with keeping him like healed, like because he lost his eye in that fight with Vander.
Did he though? We didn't.
And
see
he was in that stuff that they were fighting in was some kind of a chemical, and they talked about. He had a monologue where he was like, "I was in the chemical. You know what it feels like to have that stuff seeped into your skin."
The other great scene was when he was taking on the guys who were trying to backstab him, the council, and he pipes in that poison air, and he has no problem breathing it because he grew up breathing that shit.
Yeah,
everyone else can't take it. You know?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jared. You were gonna say that?
I mean, but the poison, he lived. So even though like all the crime lords, they lived in the higher above city, but Silco lived in the below city, and so he's like, hey, you guys forgot what it's like to live down here, smoking these poisonous fumes all the time. Let me remind you what it's like to be in our house. And that's where it all
wasn't Victor like he did the same thing, but he actually got sick from it. Like they sick from it, yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, like there were varying levels of sickness, I guess, but they didn't really explain it very well. Like I didn't know why was Victor like given a death sentence, and Silco, who breathed in way more than that. Yeah, Victor, the Jace's partner in the Hextech stuff. The guy who was dying and had like the robot limbs from the magic.
Oh, like why he was dying? He was just a sick kid.
Well, I know he was a sick kid, but I mean, like there were lots of inferences that the people who worked in like the industrial section of the city were poisoned by this stuff. But like at the same time, the purple goo was the thing that was mutating people and really poisoning them. It just didn't make any sense.
Shut up, kid. It was awesome.
I mean, I'm used to that, Alex.
Hey, I'll talk to you for hours after this.
No, do it now, buddy. What do you got?
So, I mean, basically how it works with the underground of Zon is that it's like a poisonous underground area. So you mine in industrial areas. It's like coal smoking. It's like working in the mines. You get that black lung, so on and so forth. People die young, but they make money, and that's how they live life. But as you live in that kind of crime industry, crime lords come up above it, and therefore they rise above. And then Shimmer has nothing to do with the poison fumes that cause his eyes. Shimmer is like just a performance enhancing drug that he made up with him and Singed.
Okay. So the reason
Well,
why
you see, it still doesn't make any sense.
the reason why the kid. Go ahead, Kadish.
Well, Judd just explained that whole thing to me, and I guess you can infer it from the show if you want to, but none of that's ever stated. It's just kind of like implied, and it's up to you to kind of like figure that out. And I'm not even sure you're 100% correct on that.
I could be wrong. Again, they could come in season 2 and be like, "Nah, we're just joking." It was
I mean, like the whole like there's this class imbalance between the people of the upper city and the people of the undercity, and so that's like the conflict that the entire series starts off with, where you see like the uprising and how brutally it's put down, and then like you know, like it's always talked about how Zaun is like such a terrible place, and we do get to see that in certain aspects of the show, but I feel like it's never explicitly shown just how bad it really is. And I'm wondering if it's like because like they made it somewhat for a younger audience that they didn't want to be too explicit with what they were doing, like Vi getting raped in prison and all that other stuff. It's just kind of like implied as opposed to like explicitly stated. And I think that's one of my problems with the show is like there's too much stuff that you just have to kind of extrapolate from it as opposed to, okay, this is how things are, let's move on.
It's kind of like the episode, and I forget which one it is. It's 4 or 5 or 6, where it's kind of Jace going down into Zaun to kind of enforce, you know, like, hey, stop the crime in Zaun. And he goes down and he starts killing kids. He's like, I am killing kids right now.
He accidentally killed a kid.
Sure. Yeah, he accidentally killed kids. He's like, what's happening right now? Why am I stopping your mining techniques by killing kids? And then that kind of like it implies a lot of things. It doesn't tell you. I agree.
But like if you listen to Vi's explanation, she's like, well, kids work here. Like that's
like child labor.
Well, that's their only means of getting money in a lot of these places. And she's like, if you want to change that, you know, don't give up now. And he's just like, fuck you, I'm out of here. It was a frustrating scene, you know.
No, it's frustrating on both sides because there's no right decision. Like there's no yes or no. Like, hey, this is good, this is bad. Like, hey, stop drug development or stop.
Well, the whole thing with Vi's storyline outside of Jinx was she wanted to find Silco and get revenge for what happened to Vander. And so like a lot of like from the moment that Caitlyn springs her from prison, that's kind of like her motivation, right? And nothing ever comes of that. Like I don't even think she sees Silco again until the very end there, at the dinner table scene. And it was just kind of like you know, what was the point of that? You know, like she didn't accomplish anything in the show. Like everything Vi did, she failed at.
I agree completely with you.
Hold on, Tom's got something to say. Go ahead.
Please, Tom, please.
No, I mean, not really. It's just Vi is a straightforward character. She's not brains. She's pure brawn. And she goes straight forward. Echo even says, I think it's Echo. It's like, you still didn't like you're still blocking with your face. That's her character, right? She's all guts. She's all straightforward. She's all punch him in the face and don't look back.
I mean, that's fine. But if you're the main character of a show, of a story, you have to have some agency. You have to succeed. Like Indiana Jones, he failed a lot, but he tried really hard not to fail. He tried really hard to win. And so like you would root for him. With Vi, it just seems like she was kind of making it up as she went. And she never really accomplished anything she set out to accomplish. I'm like, why should I care about this character?
Okay, so the argument for that, Indiana Jones is smart already. He happens to be capable.
Are you actually defending a character for being dumb?
No, not dumb. Just that's not her skill set. So look at like The Incredibles, right? Mr. Incredible is the protagonist. He's the hero. He's not the brains in any way. But he's the go-ahead, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to put myself on the line. I'm going to get beat down. I'm going to put myself in the front so that my team can be successful. Now, there's more people behind Vi than just her. There's more going on, right?
Mr. Incredible had some agency. Like, he actually succeeded in doing things. Whereas with
Yeah,
Vi,
and the
like
kids get
So-
more
she
applause.
failed at everything she did.
Well,
Yeah.
hold on. What specifically though? What things did she went out to get revenge on Silco for the death of her family, and she had to have worked her way up through the ranks of his organization to get to him. It just so happened that by the time she got to the top tier goons, Jinx had kidnapped her and then put them all on the table
Well,
together.
I mean,
like,
look at her journey
Vi,
throughout.
Vi
the show.
does beat the robot arm bodyguard eventually.
yeah, eventually.
Well,
and it's an awesome scene.
But
Yeah,
look
Hold
at
on,
her throughout the show, right? So like she starts off with this heist that goes sideways. She fails at it. She loses the
Because of Jinx.
because of Jinx, but she loses like the treasure that she set out to get.
Because of Jinx.
She can't hide from the law. She basically gets Vander killed by giving herself up and showing their location. Yeah, she stands up to Silco and his goons, but eventually, like she can't save Vander, and then she like has a break with her sister that sends her sister down the insane path. She gets put in prison for like decades, and then like when she gets out, she picks a fight she can't win, and she picks a fight she can't win and gets wounded.
Yeah.
And then like has to rely on someone else to get her unwounded. Like it's just failure after failure after failure for Vi.
And I love it. I absolutely
loved
love
it.
it.
Okay. But I mean, like, in order to make a truly good main character, you need to have her succeed at certain points. Which
Don't you love Berserk? Don't you love Berserk?
I love Berserk, yeah.
And Guts
never wins.
fails a lot.
So actually,
No, he
one
always
small
ends up
caveat
winning
when
in
you're
the end,
ready.
though.
Hold on. Kadish,
We
are you
haven't
good?
got to the end of Vi yet.
That's right.
It's one season
One
of like
season.
fun- and you're
True.
correct. It is
Good point,
very
Joe.
very base of what they give us. Like they gave us the meat. We didn't get the potatoes or the broccoli or any of that stuff.
Here's the thing
But
about
they only
about
had
one
so much they
season,
could
though.
do.
Hold on,
Here's-
Kadish, let him finish first.
I just need to point out that in writing a season arc, like there has to be some type of like self-contained story within the season. So like you can't just say, oh, it's one season. They're gonna flesh this out later on. No, there had to be like a.
I would say
story
the main
within the
characters
season.
of this season is Piltover and Zahn. Those are the main characters.
No, I think it's Jinx.
She
Because
is the main
we
character.
see Jinx her full arc. It goes from innocent child to
Yes.
crazy to
I
fighting
see
herself,
Jinx too. I see Jinx
and then
too.
at the end of this season, we see her go full Jinx. That's the end of that's the whole arc. She is the main character. Everybody else is kind of revolving
It's
around
an
her.
origin story. Exactly. It's an
Yeah, it's
origin story.
Origin story for Jinx more than it is for Vi, because Vi has more story to tell.
No, yeah,
Pretty much everybody else that didn't die in this season has more story to go. Jinx is the only one who has completed her arc. She is now fully Jinx. There is no hope for her moving forward.
God, that last scene's so good.
All right, let's talk about If we got 10 minutes left, let's talk about favorite scenes, and Kadish, in your case, least favorite scenes. Joe, take it away, babe. Oh my God, babe, hey, baby. Joe, take it away,
Alex,
sir.
It's been too long.
I know
the
it
fight
has.
between Echo and Jinx, 100%.
Echo
hands
and
down.
Jinx. Okay, great.
That
Yeah.
fight blew
Oh,
me
God, that fight
away.
scene's so
Like
good.
that was probably my favorite fight of like anything I've seen. Like just I've been playing the game for like 10 plus years, so like I have a lot to go off of for someone like Kadish who just watched this because, it's a TV show on Netflix. Like it just hit me so good. Like it was the cinematics of it, like the slowdown, like them bouncing back and forth between like when they were kids to like it just blew me away.
And for a character
Blew
like
me
Echo,
away.
who is fairly small in the entire story, like he shows up very early in the first couple episodes here and there, and then it was a really cool thing that they had Echo be like this pretty powerful antagonist to Jinx, and have them. That fight meant a lot, which I was surprised by. I didn't expect him to mean that much to me, but that was a really cool fight. It's a great scene. Do you have a moment where you didn't like it? Do you have any criticisms at all, Joe? You have none at all? Nothing? No
I'd have to-
episode?
I agree with Matt that the senator or the councilor member and her mother, like I wasn't a big fan of that, but I know the lore. I know what's coming next. Like them introducing Noxus, like, oh my God, that's so huge. Like, because there's a whole nother world. Like, they could make like 50 more seasons of this like world of like League of Legends, and like still have like stuff to write about. Like, it's just, oh, there's so much there that
Cool.
like we only got one small season of it, and I'm just like, I want more. I can't wait for the next season, and like I can't wait for what they're gonna do next.
Okay, I'm gonna pick your brain in a minute, in the last minute or so, about what could possibly come next. Jared, how about you, bud? What's your favorite moments? Do you have a favorite episode for this show?
I'll say my favorite moments is actually the intro song, like "Enemy" by Imagine Dragons. Like they did an amazing job with that. It really kind of encompasses the whole show, and then also that last 10 minutes of the show. Like when at the dinner table, like, hey, who am I gonna be? Powder, am I gonna be Jinx? And then like Silco dying, saying I'm not gonna give you up, and then it's that last shot, and just like, oh hey, we want peace, and then now this is happening. Like, just gives you goosebumps every time.
So that the season finale is your favorite episode?
Season finale is so good.
All right, cool. Good. Tom, how you, bud?
Well, I already said episode 3 is by far my favorite episode. It's the first episode where you realize how brutal the show is. It's like when you saw Invincible, and you didn't realize Invincible was going to be Invincible until the last 1 minute of episode 1. You're like, Teen Titans sucks. I don't want to watch the Teen Titans. And then by the end, so episode 3 was that moment where I realized, oh shit, this is way bigger than I thought it was going to be, and way more exciting and way more fun. So episode 3, obviously my favorite. I do agree with Matt on a lot of this stuff. I just like it so much that it bothers me that Matt wants to crap on it for me. But yeah, there are a lot of unanswered questions in this show. And if we've talked about anything in the past, it's unanswered questions will drive us all crazy. We'll create our own fan verse in our head of what it's supposed to be, and then it won't line up down the road with what our stupid fantasies are supposed to be. I'm trying not to think about that stuff too much, and just enjoying it. You know, I give this 9 out of 10 stars. It's a really, really good thing. Best thing since Daredevil on Netflix. It's a very good show.
So good.
Very good show. Yeah.
Wow. All right, Kadish, you have a favorite episode or a least favorite episode? What's your final thoughts on this show?
In terms of episodes, I don't really have like a favorite or least favorite. I look at it as like a holistic story. So it's like 8 episodes, I think. Mm-hmm. So like I'm looking at it as a whole. To get to what Judd said earlier about the Imagine Dragons song, I like Imagine Dragons. I like every time the intro came up, I actually watched the intro and listened to the music.
Yes.
But what they did, one of the things that I absolutely hate that any show ever does, which is they made an animated version of Imagine Dragons and put them in the show. And I was like, oh, come on. That like, I hate it when shows do that. It's like, I can remember I used to work at Paramount, and there was they used to shoot Sabrina the Teenage Witch there. And there was a time when this musical band came, I forget the name of the band, but
musical band.
It was the Goo Goo Dolls. So the Goo Goo Dolls showed up to play the Teenage Witch's prom, and I was on set when they were doing it, and like Melissa Joan Hart's there, and she's like, "Oh look, the Goo Goo Dolls," and they're up on stage like playing their hit single for like the prom, and so like that's always been a pet peeve of mine is when like shows take like actual bands and put them in there. Like I would have just been fine if they had played the opening song.
Hold on, Kadish. We got 2 super chats to address real quick. Zax, thank you for the $2. Says Silco tested Shimmer on a mouse and a thug in episode 1. Yes, that is true. I remember that scene when the cat tried to eat the mouse and the mouse killed the cat. And then a $5 super chat from Justin Proper. How you doing, buddy? I haven't seen you in a while. Oh snap! You guys have super chats. Yay! By the way, The Goonies is the best movie ever made. Period. You are wrong, sir.
He is not wrong.
He's wrong. David Hewlett will back me up on that. All right, cool. Anyway, Kadish, so you didn't like the Imagine Dragons being too meta?
I didn't like the Imagine Dragons cameo. I thought
Okay.
that cheapened the entire show for me.
Okay. All right.
Because it was just stupid. Like
They actually have some
Starfucker.
backstory
Yeah.
with League of Legends, but I'll go with you. But again,
I know that I know they have backstory, but still, I was just like, that's a bridge too far for me, especially considering how serious the show had been up to that point.
There was a lot of good music in the show, though. Besides Imagine Dragons,
Soundtrack.
there was a lot of really spot-on music in the show. It was very good.
The
Yeah,
soundtrack.
they even named one of the episodes after the title of that song.
Is that right?
Everyone's my enemy.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so episode 3 has a really somber song at the end. I even looked it up because I like
Playground.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's very, very Billie Eilish sounding, or like a Lord sounding, and I had to look it up because I liked the song that much. Yeah, it's a cool show. The music is awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoy the opening credits. That's one of the things.
Out of everything, I think that the thing I'm most impressed about is the animation. Second to none, best animated series in terms of visuals I think I've ever seen. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Joe, did you go yet? You did, right? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay. Another $5 super chat from Joker's Voice. I got to scoot. Have to work tonight. Great stream. Great show. Can't wait for season 2. Hashtag keep talking. Thank you, Joker. Guys, if you're watching the channel right now, Joker he just started his own YouTube channel. He's going to be doing more nerd content, and his hashtag keep talking is going to be a big thing. So go subscribe, help him out. Oh my gosh, another $5 chat from Joseph Proper. Speaking of which, there is a certain cameo in Cobra Kai season 4 that came out of nowhere. WTF. Also, who's better, Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth?
Sammy Hagar.
Sammy Hagar.
Yeah, you can't be.
You baby, sweet baby boy.
Thank you, Justin, so much for $10 tonight. Thank you.
The answer is David Lee Roth, by the way.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hey, season 2, by the way, confirmed, and there will be characters from the season 1 going into season 2.
Oh, that is confirmed for Arcane?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think it's 3 or 5. They don't tell which ones they are going to be.
Yeah, it's a shame it takes them like 8 years to make.
I was about to say 2020 what? 2024.
They said 2 years, so we'll see what we.
It's like Rick and Morty bullshit where I gotta wait 7 years for a new season.
Yeah.
Anyway, real quick for me, I'm with Tom. My favorite episode is episode 3, the fight with Vander against Silco, and where everything kind of came crashing down. That episode really got me hooked for this show. It was fantastic. I loved the dynamic. I loved everything about that episode. The animation was gorgeous. The fight scenes were incredible. So that was this episode that got me hooked. I also agree with you guys. The fight scene on the bridge with Echo and Jinx was amazing. And the favorite character in the show, it's got to be Jinx. She was so well done. And the way that they showed her brain cracking with like the sketched frames with like the animated faces behind her, freaking spot on. I loved.
Did you know Ella Purnell was the voice of Jinx, and she was Dave Bautista's daughter in Army of the Dead?
Really?
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yeah.
Nice.
And then Vi is
Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah.
Hawkeye's apprentice, or
Kid Hawkeye, the girl from True Grit. Yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome.
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
I like True
awesome
Grit. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right on. It's a great show. I don't know what I would give it for a star rating. It would, God, it's got to be easily a 4 out of 5 for me. I had a ton of fun with it. Another $2 super chat. Worst music cameo, Lenny Kravitz in Hunger Games. Yes.
Yeah.
That was terrible. Thank you, Justin, for the $2.
And yet it was still better than the Imagine Dragons cameo.
Wait. I'd like to put some thought in there. Yeah, hold on.
Did he watch that?
All right. What's the worst musical cameo in the movie ever?
I really feel like Lenny Kravitz wasn't bad in Hunger Games. So I'm really trying to think of like, there's got to be worse than Lenny Kravitz in Hunger Games. Hold on.
Was Nickelback ever in anything?
Cheap shot.
Madonna and Die Another Day.
Yes, Madonna in Die Another Day. She also did the songs for that movie, which was atrocious.
I watched that movie. I can't remember her being in it.
Good recollection, Kadish. Good luck. Guys, you guys can check out our podcast on those movies. It was out a couple weeks ago. We talk all about Madonna being in that movie. All right, everybody. That is it for tonight's live stream. Thank you all so much for joining us. The last Bravo, sir. Say goodbye to the people. And what are you looking forward to for season 2?
Just more League of Legends. Honestly, Tom, I want to mention to you, like, if you love the animation, like, just YouTube League of Legends, like, they have some really cool, just like fight scenes with just like different characters from the show. Like, the animation is spot on. They have been the cause of so much awesome music. Like, every year they have a Worlds tournament, and they have like awesome artists make new songs for the show. Like, just League of Legends the Riot Games have their hand in like so much entertainment industry from League of Legends, like, and everything they do is like gold status. Like, everything they put their hands on is like really, really good. So like the cinematics, this show, music, like, it's just top notch. Like, their live events, even like their world tournament was in Beijing, China, where they had, or I think Beijing, China, I don't know. Jared was actually there. Where they had the Olympics a couple years ago. So like, I mean, it's not just some small gaming company, like, and they put out like one of the greatest animes that's ever been made. Like, awesome. Like, Riot Games, just like, good job.
Right on. Joe is a big time gamer. In fact, I'm trying to convince him to start his own streaming show, but he's a little too shy. So in the comments, show him some love, guys. Let him know that it's possible.
Thank you.
And Jared, say goodbye to the people. And is there anything that you want to shout out or you're looking forward to?
I mean, thank you for having me. I love it being here. I love talking about this kind of stuff. Again, I love League of Legends. I love philosophy on, shows, TV shows, radio broadcast, everything. What I would want is kind of what Tom wants. I want like a 1,200 book series on like the lore of League of Legends that I can go back to later. But
okay,
we'll get to that point when we get to that point.
Right on. Thank you for joining us tonight, man. Tom, say goodbye to the people, and where can they find you, and what do you want to see in season 2?
Okay, goodbye, people. Just I did download League of Legends and started playing it a lot after the show. I even have the second it was over, I downloaded the stupid game and started playing. So whatever their marketing strategy is, they got one more people playing that dumb game. It is fun though. The game's pretty fun. But yeah, you know me. I do salty nerd stuff every now and again. Whenever you guys need me, it's always a pleasure. Matt, I hope I didn't bust your balls too bad. But great show. Season 2, I'm with Matt on this one. I want to see a little bit more world building. Now that we have our antagonist figured out, I want to see a little world building. I want to see a little bit more politics. Don't skimp on the action because the action is amazing and well animated and really fun. The music knocked out of the park. Great show, great panel. It's super late here, but we're going to still party until the sun comes up. So rock and roll, guys.
Right on. Thanks, Tom. All right, Kate, it's your turn, bud. Go ahead.
So props to Fortish for making such an amazing looking series. It makes me wonder what Netflix could do if they just gave Blur Studios like $300 million and said, do whatever you want. Because Blur does all the amazing cinematics for like World of Warcraft, pretty much Star Wars Galaxies, pretty much any awesome cutscene you've ever seen from any video game, Blur Studios was behind it. So I think that this show is actually going to do a lot for animation in the sense of like what people see as possible. And I hope that leads to more awesome animated out, things on streaming. Tom, did you want to say something?
Well, it was just on the concept of video games becoming a decent movie. You said World of Warcraft, which I've watched like 5 times, and I want to like the movie, but it's kind of a mess. The one I'm really waiting for is like Warhammer 40,000 for that to become an anime, because I love that universe. I love that world. I've been playing those games forever.
Henry Cavill will lead that charge for you.
Yeah, if you look at the animated cutscenes for the MMO version of Warhammer, that was done by Blur Studios. And
I can't wait. I hope it happens, man, because that would be fun.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to see how this inspires other studios to to make more animated offerings. In terms of season 2, I just want it to make sense. I feel like this season took a lot of liberties with certain types of story logic. So I just want a better written seasonal arc in season 2, and kind of balance out the plot with the character development stuff.
Cool. For me, for season 2, I'm looking forward to. I want to see an all-out war. We know the council is probably dead now. And that councilwoman's mother, who's from like the warrior side of the planet or whatever, she was a straight up freaking savage. I want her to just go all out war on Jinx and her people and have that. Like, I need to see what the aftermath of that bomb. Joe, you're freaking out over there.
I want to jump in real quick because one of like the whole League of Legends lore, like Noxus versus Demacia, which you haven't even like been introduced to Demacia yet. And that is just going to be huge. Just think of like World of Warcraft, like Horde versus Alliance. Like it's going to be good.
Yeah. So like, going on with Joe, like again, like it's been around for 10 years, 11 years now, League of Legends. And so it has a whole universe around it. And so Arcane did a very small part of it. And now it came with success. So we can expect a lot of great things in the future.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. But all right, guys, thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you guys had a great time in the chat. Thank you for being active. Again, thank you for our super supporters out there throwing us super chats. Really appreciate it. Our goal, of course, is to do this full time. If you guys want even more awesome content from the Salty Nerd podcast, go to saltynerdclub.com. Join that club membership. You guys are going to get 4 exclusive podcasts every single month, specifically made for our patrons. This month, we're doing Doctor Who, and we're going to have people like David Hewlett hop on and talk about, because he's a Whovian, and when he found out we were talking about it, he's going to join us. So if you want access to those exclusive episodes, saltynerdclub.com, join the club membership, and don't forget to join us on Discord as well. For the Monday night live stream that we're doing tonight, it's going to be the Salty Nerd Late Night. It's basically going to be shows that I pick that I've been watching on my own that I don't have time to do on the official podcast. So if you have suggestions, if you want us to talk about specific shows, hop on the Discord app, saltynerdiscord.com, and throw into the ring a show that you like. I'll go check it out, and if I can get people to talk about it, I sure will. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much again. I appreciate it. Have a great Monday night, and we will see you guys next week. Adios.
Adios.